Welcome back to another episode of Believe in TCU. I'm Zion Trammell here with Seth Dowdle on this March Madness episode. We are fresh out of watching TCU and Ohio State, and when I mean fresh, literally the game ended like 20 minutes ago, and we are reacting. This is as close to the end of a game that we've had a recorded an episode, Seth.
Not even any bowl game that TCU's ever played or a football game or whatever. We usually let it digest a minute, but this is our instant reactions, instant takes from a classic March Madness opener between the Frogs and the Buckeyes. What a game, Zion. What a freaking game. TCU moving on to the round of 32 for the third straight tournament, but that is incorrect. They are moving on, though, and it is a heck of a time.
It was such a fun game. I can't imagine, as far as non-TCU, non-Ohio State fans watching the end of that game, was like, oh, this is classic March. Seth texted me, I hate March Madness, when I think it was Thornton that hit that crazy three with under a minute to go. And then at the end of it, we both were like, we love March because it's so fun. It's so chaos. And it had everything. It had TCU getting out to a ginormous lead, then losing it in the second half, but prevailing 66-64. So let's kind of get into the meat and bones of this thing, because there was a lot happening. Let's start with the first half. TCU, that was some of the best basketball that I've seen from this team all year, and TCU basketball in general. Jamie Dixon, masterclass in that first half. The defense was tremendous. They were playing with a lot of energy. The rotations were working really well. They were trapping Ohio State's guards, and preventing a lot of good looks. They just weren't getting them for Ohio State. And then TCU was able to use that good defense into good offense. The ball movement was tremendous. It was a clean half of basketball from TCU, which allowed them to get out to a 39-24 lead.
Yeah, especially the last couple minutes, right, where they went on that 11-0 run, and you felt like TCU had all the momentum. I mean, Ohio State could not do anything that it wanted to do. TCU's defense was that suffocating. TCU was hitting three-pointers like it was nobody's business. Michael Robinson was having the half of his life from beyond the arc. It was just beautiful basketball, and doing it not like David Punch did not have that big of a contribution, at least scoring wise, in the first half. And you're like feeling really good about yourself up 15 at that point. Cause like if the defensive effort continues up, and sure, maybe you expect Ohio State to hit a little bit more shots in the second half. Maybe they won't be as cold as they were in the first half. But if TCU continues that defensive intensity, if they, just continue on the offensive end, just doing exactly what they're doing, they should have won this game comfortably. But that's not March. That's not college basketball. That's not this TCU Horned Frogs basketball team. And it went much differently. Of course, we can talk about it in a jovial way because they ended up winning at the end in very awesome fashion, which I'm sure we'll talk about in a little bit here. But great first half, but was not super thrilled with what happened at the beginning of the second half.
It was kind of a classic TCU men's basketball sort of second half collapse there, just not bringing the same energy. Ohio State's bigs were getting multiple looks wide open in the paint. With Bynum, they were getting him involved. He had 12 points and 9 rebounds. The rim protection and shot blocking was not there for TCU. It really was in the beginning. Again, in the first half, Punch had a couple blocks. I think Micah Robinson or even chipped in a block, or it might have been Pierre. But they were not able to keep that same sort of energy with on the defensive end. And then they were just missing easy looks around the rim. I don't know how many times TCU just couldn't finish strong around the rim. And they slowly allowed Ohio State to crawl back into this game. And I really was nervous that TCU was not going to pull this one out. But the way that they executed there in those last couple minutes allowed them to prevail. But definitely some red flags there as far as what TCU's execution looked like in the second half.
And listen, right, some of that is just like Ohio State has good basketball players. It was only a matter of time before, uh, you know, John Mobley got it going a little bit, and he was kind of the offense for Ohio State in that second half because Bruce Thornton really was not doing anything, and he was kind of the guy we talked about. I mean, he's Ohio State's all-time leading scorer. Of course, he's the leading scorer for Ohio State this season. Of course, we're expecting him to be the guy, and he hit the first shot of the game for Ohio State, but then only had 2 points the rest of the way until like the last couple of minutes when he went to the free throw line. So it was really shocking, just kind of how uninvolved he was. But John Mobley did a really good job for them in that second half, hitting some clutch shots, some unbalanced threes. Just was getting every little inch of separation and was taking advantage of it from beyond the arc for Ohio State, and that really helped them inch closer in the game. But I think we should just jump forward to that last like 2 minutes.
We should, yeah. It was really when the nerves and the pressure started to ramp up, and you were just hoping that TCU could find a way, right? Just get a couple shots to fall in order to pull out this win. Bruce Thornton, he hit a pair of free throws to give Ohio State the lead with 2 minutes, and TCU was kind of in a bit of a scoring drought. And then David Punch with an and one, really clutch. He converted the free throw to put TCU back up 2. Then Ohio State was able to get back to the free throw line. But the big shot, Micah Robinson off the feed from Jaden Pierre in the corner with under a minute to go. Micah Robinson was absolutely lights out tonight, or in this game for TCU, gave the Frogs the lead. And then Thornton hits a ridiculous shot. And then TCU has control with the ball with about 20 seconds left. Shot clock's winding down. A great feed from David Punch to find Xavier Edmonds with position down low. He hits the layup for 2, and then Ohio State puts up a terrible shot and TCU wins. But it was really good execution there from Punch to find Edmonds there to hit that layup around the rim.
TCU had some incredible assists in this game. That was just one of many. Of course, the Punch assist down low to Edmonds for the game-winning shot, that and the go-ahead shot from Robinson. Just fantastic feeds all around from TCU, and a lot of that is like due to just Brock Harding being a really awesome facilitator. But all 5 guys on the court were just doing a great job of finding the open guy and then that guy going to the basket or making a shot and whatnot, especially in the first half when TCU couldn't seem to miss. So that's what I was just super impressed with. We got to give our props to Jamie Dixon here for the coaching job they did in that last minute. Those 2 plays, those 2 sets that he drew up there, especially the one for Robinson in the corner, just beautifully executed. And then obviously props to the guys on the actual basketball court for executing that to perfection. That's going to be a moment that lives in the heads of TCU fans forever, right up there with the Jacoby Coles buzzer beater against Arizona State. That's back-to-back wins for TCU in the tournament that have come on last-second shots from, I don't want to call them unlikely heroes, because I know Xavier Edmonds has been a big piece of this season, but coming into the year, you would not maybe have pinned him as a guy that would have hit a big time shot for TCU in the tournament. Same kind of thing with Jacoby Coles a couple of years ago. So really big props, obviously, to him and what he's been able to do for TCU this season. Pay him whatever he wants. He has been fantastic. Honestly, a lot of these guys on the roster, David Punch, pay him whatever he wants to keep him here. Like, this is a team that I think is gelling at the right time. And if you can keep this group together, obviously this season is over, but keep this group together going into next and maybe add some supplemental pieces, I think this is a really good team in the Big 12 moving forward, so long as everyone stays on board. But obviously we're focused right here on the here and now with TCU winning 66-64 over Ohio State. And this is one of the biggest and happiest moments of TCU men's basketball history over the last decade, for sure. No doubt about it.
100%. Yeah. That Edmonds layup that he made, so clutch. And you talk about a guy who's coming from playing community college basketball, right? Like that's not even in the same stratosphere as this stage in March. And for David Punch to unselfishly give up that basketball to Edmonds and allow him to score there, and because he had the better look,
Yeah.
and it ultimately paid off really well. That front court together creates a lot of matchup nightmares because you know Punch can put it on the deck, right? He can take the ball up sometimes, and he can make uh, centers trying to guard him kind of a nightmare matchup there because he's got incredible footwork around the rim. We saw multiple times him cashing in on and ones and with his drop set spin moves and just being a menace all over the floor. I think Punch and Edmonds were ultimately the X factors. And then, like you said, Micah Robinson, 4 of 6 from three, 18 points. He also had 5 rebounds. Again, those three together, so much fun to watch. But I think easily one of the most impressive things about this win was the way TCU was able to rebound.
Oh my gosh, I was just about to talk about this. This is nuts to me.
Yeah, out rebounded by 10.
Ohio State has a decisive size advantage here. Like when we talked about it, I mean, they got to do that 7 feet tall. And yet TCU, I think, and they commented on the broadcast, it just like seemed like they wanted the rebounds more. And they were hustling to the basketball. Also, I think the ball was overinflated. That thing was flying off the rim. I don't know if you had the same takeaway as me on that one, but all the games I've watched so far, the ball has just been bouncing off the rim like crazy. We've seen some very long rebounds, but that's beside the point. I'm just super impressed with them and what they're able to do. Their toughness on the interior, even whenever they're a small team, right? This is not a team that has a guy that's like a physical presence on the inside, but yet they still get in there and get the basketball.
Yeah, it was really, really great. I'll be honest, Seth, I didn't hear a lot of what you just said. You're like, for some reason on my headphones it cut out, but you talked about TCU being kind of a smaller team. And that really paid off well. And I think the lineups that Jamie Dixon was running out there paid off really well. Yeah, what a win for TCU. Just a monumental win for the Frogs, and there's a lot to be excited about this game. How about a little shout out to Brock Harding for taking that hit to the mouth, which was the right call, but he got the worst end of that exchange and then staying in the game. He hit a couple threes as well. I remember he hit the first three of the game to put TCU up 5-0. I was like, Brock Harding? Guy who shoots 27% from three?
He hit the first shot of the game like a kind of running layup, not a layup, kind of a running floater, contested from the elbow. And I was like, whoa.
Okay.
Like, he's not the guy I would have pegged to be the guy that pulls the trigger first for TCU. But hey, and obviously he didn't have like a massive scoring game. He only had 8 points, but still, I know Jaden Pierre only had 4. His 1 3-pointer in the second half was so big. It calmed the waters in a moment when TCU just needed a bucket. And I want to comment on that 1 3-pointer. It was the only field goal he made all day, but it was a big one.
It was. You can always count on Jaden Pierre to hit a big shot, and he did. It really did. It was in the middle of the second half. Again, kind of calmed things down, and TCU was able to try to get back into control of this game. But yeah, clutch shots there from the Frogs at the end. That's what it takes to win in March, right? You need clutch shooting. You need to be able to knock down your free throws. TCU shot 9 of 14, which isn't great, but it's kind of what you come to expect with TCU hoops. But ultimately, it came down to Micah Robinson's 3 and Xavier Edmonds coming up clutch. That's the kind of thing you need. And one thing I was looking for in this game was to see the kind of leap that David Punch was going to take. And he chipped in 16 points, 13 rebounds, and 3 blocks. and really stepped up for TCU when they needed him, despite getting into foul trouble early on. That was really huge that neither Punch or Edmonds did not foul out of this game. That was really important.
Yeah, I think Edmonds got his 4th foul with 8 minutes left in the game. And there were a couple times when I was like, Ohio State should just like run right at him right now, and they'll probably get the call and he'll probably be gone. But he stayed in the game, and it ultimately pays off because he's the guy who hits the final shot. Just what a story for him. You talked about his community college roots. Like that's just one of those things that you only see in college sports. A rise from pretty much nothing to making your name known on the biggest stage that college basketball has to offer. What a story. What a moment for TCU. They're moving on to the round of 32 with an opportunity to go to the second weekend for the first time in program history.
What's standing in the way of that happening is most likely Siena.
They're up 19-16 with 11:29 to go. 22-16 with 11:29 to go.
I just saw that. Siena is beating Duke right now. Let's just make that clear. That is actually happening.
By 6. They're beating them by 6.
So obviously TCU is in the region of death that everybody's talking about, a region that features Rick Pitino and St. John's and Bill Self with Kansas and Darren Peterson. Louisville looking like they could very well be moving on. I don't know the status with Michael Brown Jr., Michigan State and Tom Izzo, UCLA, UConn. This is a loaded region. And so if TCU is going to make any run, they're going to have to beat a formidable program, and it will likely be Duke, which would be a tremendous
Listen, I don't know if Siena keeps shooting like this.
It could be Siena. It very well could be. I don't want to rule out that possibility, but I think for the sake of this conversation, we'll talk about what a matchup with Duke would look like with Cam Boozer. Do the Frogs have any chance against the Blue Devils?
I mean, I can't say no because of what I've seen them do against. I mean, listen, TCU has beaten a 1 seed in this tournament this season. They beat Florida, and it was on a neutral floor, and that's what this is going to be, sort of. It's going to be in Greenville, South Carolina. There's going to be a lot of Duke fans there. But I've seen them do it before. I saw them go to Fog Allen, and I know Kansas is not Duke, but Kansas has a player that is of the same caliber or maybe even just a little better than Cam Boozer and Darren Peterson, and TCU was on the verge of beating that Kansas team twice, actually. Almost beat him in Kansas City too, and that's essentially a Kansas home game. Maybe if the court was wood, TCU would have won that game. I've seen them beat Iowa State, and I've seen them beat Texas Tech on the road. I understand that none of those teams are Duke. I understand that, but at least there's some, proof that something like that is similar. I don't think that they're going to get their doors blown off, is what I'm trying to say. I think that TCU can compete. I don't think they can win, personally. I wouldn't pick it. I wouldn't bet any money on it. But I would not be surprised if we get to the last 5 minutes of this game and TCU's down by 5 or less.
Yeah, there's a proof of concept that they can hang around with the best teams, some really high-level programs. Again, Duke is probably better than anyone that they've faced, but Florida is probably not far behind them, and TCU was able to beat them. Look, obviously Duke has a bigger team and a little more physical, and they have one of the best players in the country with Cam Boozer. So how they're going to be able to defend him is going to be priority number one. What kind of looks they're going to give him. It's not going to be easy by any means. But TCU, if they can shoot the 3 ball a little bit better and they can get some decent looks and kind of get out to a similar start, they're going to have to put up a similar defensive effort that they put up against Ohio State. It may not be to the same level of success, but they're going to have to create havoc in the backcourt. They can't let them run their offense smoothly. They got to be able to create turnovers, just be pesky. That's what TCU is going to have to be. They can't. They're going to have to play a different style of game. And some of the ingredients that you saw in today's win over Ohio State could hopefully carry over should they play Duke. Now, if they play Siena, I have no idea what that team looks like, and that's going to be a whole different level of, of a matchup that is just going to be nuts.
If they play Siena, they could lose to Siena because I've seen them lose to teams worse than Siena.
100%. And obviously the hope is that Siena does win. Like that's what you want, right? You don't want to play Duke in the second round. But regardless, I think it's important to celebrate what this team's accomplished right now. And a win over Ohio State was an impressive one. Not a ton of people picked TCU to win this game. I mean, there was only about 40% of brackets that picked the Frogs, which we were one of that. We were two of that 40%.
We were there. I was there. We can hand up right now. My bracket's perfect.
Mm-hmm. For 8 minutes and 32 seconds until South Florida loses.
Listen, they're down by 11. Come on. Down by 11.
Oh, they're making it close. Never know. Yeah, Siena's still leading by 6.
They've been in an official TV timeout for 10 minutes over in Duke Siena while John Shire tries to get the boys into shape.
Yeah, this is what makes March so much fun. McNeese is leading Vanderbilt 8-5. There's so many games happening right now as we're recording this.
This podcast is going to date itself really fast when y'all are listening to this after it comes out and y'all like, hey, McNeese lost by 30 to Vandy.
Yeah. Well, that's part of the reason why we decided to record this so soon after, because it's a quick turnaround. TCU is probably going to play in about 48 hours against Duke or Siena, and then you have the women's team tomorrow, so
we'll be here.
Looking forward to that, yeah. And they'll take on UC San Diego in the first round. So, hey, this is what March is all about. It's so much fun. Hopefully, TCU can live to fight into the second round. You had a face there. What was that?
I just hit the craziest 3 I've ever seen in my entire life.
Yeah, they're hanging around with Wisconsin, a team that TCU beat, who's a 5 seed. So again, there is like several teams in this tournament that TCU has taken down. We saw them in this similar of a situation where they played Arizona in 2022, and it came down to the wire, and Mike Miles was fouled, and Arizona hit a dunk with a couple seconds left to win that game. Who did they beat in the first round? Was it
Seton Hall? I think you're misremembering things a little bit. That game went to overtime. That was not a dunk to end it.
Oh, that was to tie the game.
No, the the game was the what's the name? He was on the Pacers and now he's on the
Benedict Mathurin.
Benedict Mathurin hit a game-tying 3. Then TCU could have had he was not fouled at half court, but he was, according to many TCU fans, and it was not called. Then Arizona had a layup to win it on the other end, but they barely didn't get it off in time. So the game went to OT, and then Arizona ended up winning in overtime. And what was a very good game that saw Eddie Lampkin put up the performance of a lifetime.
He went crazy. And yeah, I totally misremembered that. Goodness gracious. I was way off. But it was the idea there was that Mike Miles was not fouled, but in my opinion, it should have been a foul.
And it was Seton Hall. They beat Seton Hall, kind of beat them really big.
Yeah.
And that game, I don't think anyone remembers or saw because of how late it was at night. I don't think anyone was in the arena for that. Very thankful to TCU. Siena's up by 10.
What is happening right now? Are we, we'll
keep an eye on it.
We'll keep an eye on it. This could age like milk here in about an hour or so. So we'll see. But hey, Duke's on the ropes. So we'll see. Again, TCU will play the winner of Duke and Siena in the second round on Saturday. Should be a lot of fun. And again, we will have coverage for the women's team as well as they open their tournament play tomorrow at 11, I believe, taking on UC San Diego. So that's going to be fun. Then they'll play the winner of Washington and South Dakota State should they win that. So again, TCU winning 66-64. What a fun game to open up this beautiful tournament that they call March Madness. You can subscribe to our YouTube page or listen to us wherever you get your podcasts, all at Believe in TCU. So for Seth Dowdle, I'm Zion Trammell. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you guys next time. And as always, go Frogs.